Takekurabe, child's play. Ichiyo Higuchi. Around the great gate, the weeping willow, though long, could not hide the commotion of the third floor, its lights reflected in the Yoshiwara ditch. The ceaseless coming and going of rickshaws day and night hinted at an unimaginable prosperity. Though the name Dionjimi meant in front of the great temple, the people living there called it a lively town. Past the corner of Mishima Shrine, instead of grand mansions, stood rows of 10 and 20-unit tenements with their eaves sloping downwards. Because business wasn't particularly good, outside the half-closed shutters, they displayed curious paper cutouts, painted with whitewash and brightly colored like dengaku, sweetened miso-glazed skewers. The skewers glued to the back looked amusing. Not just one or two houses, but many, would dry them in the morning sun and put them away at sunset, each family busily engaged in this task. When asked what they were, they'd reply, "Don't you know? These are preparations for the kumade, bamboo rakes, that the greedy god carries at the annual Mishima Shrine Festival on the Day of the Rooster in November." From the time the New Year's pine decorations were taken down, they were true merchants, working throughout the year. Even in their side jobs, they painted their hands and feet in the summer, relying on this work to fund their New Year's clothes. "Oh, great Utari Daimyojin," they'd pray, "grant great fortune to those who buy these, so that we, the makers, may receive 10,000 times the profit." Despite these wishes, however, they remained surprisingly poor. No one in this area had ever heard of a great fortune being made. Most of the residents were geishas patrons, their wives living in small caged houses. The clattering of the wooden tags for their shoes was a busy sound from evening onwards as they'd leave, their wives seeing them off with a farewell fire, perhaps wondering, "Is this the last time I'll see him?" These men risked their lives, much like failed double suicides, carrying their regrets with them. It was amusing to see them act so carefree, as if going on a picnic, despite their dangerous work. Their daughters were apprentices, called oshins or something, working under the large bamboo fences of brothels or serving customers at some establishment. They would scurry about with lanterns and shop signs, honing their skills. What would become of them after their training? It was certainly an amusing spectacle, wasn't it, to see them aspiring to the hinadan, doll platform, representing a geisha's debut. Women over 30, with a polished air, would quickly and efficiently gather their things, wearing dark blue tabi socks and clattering jita sandals, carrying small, wrapped packages. They would often be seen on the tea house walkways, calling out, "I'm delivering this from here because it's too far to go around." They were likely the custom-made dressmakers of the area. The local customs were different here. Few women wore their obis properly. Preferring a flashier style, they wore wide, loosely tied obis. Older women could get away with it, but the sight of 15 or 16-year-olds puffing out their cheeks while dressed like this was enough to make some people close their eyes in disapproval. The local customs were inescapable. Yesterday's popular geisha, whose name, something like Muraski, still lingered in the ear, today set up a yakitori stall in her neighborhood, a novice in the business, hoping to rebuild her fortune. Once she'd squandered her money, she'd return to her old profession, putting on the airs of a married woman. She seemed more sophisticated than an amateur, and even children were not immune to her influence. In autumn, around the time of the Niwaka festival in September, watch the main street. You'd see remarkably well-learned imitations of the popular kabuki actor Rohachi, and performances of Aiki's plays. The children's rapid progress in acting out stories like Mencius's mother was astonishing. Praised for their talent, they would strut about tonight, singing through their noses, the confidence of 7- and 8-year-olds already blossoming. Soon, they'd be carrying towels on their shoulders, singing popular tunes, their 15-year-old swagger intimidating. They would even clap along to school songs and wouldn't hesitate to perform the Kiari, workman's song, at the sports day. Education was difficult enough as it was, and the teachers' struggles were immense. Near Iria stood Ikuasha, a private school with nearly 1,000 students crammed into a small building. The teachers were highly respected, and the mere mention of school was enough to command respect in this area. The children who attended came from diverse backgrounds: firemen, kite makers, laborious. Some would say, "My dad's at the watchtower on the Hain Bridge," demonstrating a street smarts that surpassed their formal education. They'd imitate firefighters climbing ladders and then complain, "He broke my shuriken," throwing star. Some were children of lawyers, numbering 300 or more. Teased with, "Your dad's a horse thief," they'd blushingly give their names, their young hearts pained. The hidden sons of brothel owners would put on airs of nobility in their dormitory, wearing feathered hats and strolling through the red light district in their Western clothes. It was amusing to see the children following them, calling out "Young master, young master." Among these many children was Shinyo of Raijeiji Temple. His 1,000 strands of black hair, at his tender age, would soon be replaced by the somber black of a monk's robes. Was his devotion genuine? Some children were naturally studious, while others, resented by their peers, were subjected to various pranks. Some would even tie a dead cat to a rope and throw it at Shinyo, saying, "Since you're in charge of funerals, please perform the last rites for this." But that was in the past. Now, as the top student in the school, no one dared to insult or trifle with him. At 15, he was of average height and build, his neatly combed chestnut hair giving him an air of innocence. Unlike the common folk, his name was written as Fujimoto Nobuyuki, but his demeanor suggested he was destined for a religious life. Too. August 20th was the festival of Senzoku Shrine. Floats and portable shrines paraded down the streets, each neighborhood vying to outdo the others in their displays, and the young men's enthusiasm was palpable. For the children of this area, who couldn't bear to be left out, wearing matching yukatas was a given. They eagerly made plans, their boisterousness enough to make anyone's heart tremble. The leader of the Yokok gang, a 16-year-old known for his roughness, had gained considerable swagger since serving as his father's stand-in during the Niwaka Festival's Kanab, Iron Club, performance. His obi was tied low, his replies curt and dismissive, a crude display. If he weren't the leader's son, the wives of kite-makers would mutter. He'd widened his obi to an unsuitable width, full of self-importance. His rival was Shtar of the Tanaka family in Omotech. 3 years younger, Shtar was blessed with wealth and charm, making him hard to dislike. While Chikichi attended a private school, Shtar went to a public one, and though they sang the same songs, Shtar acted as if his version was the original. Last year and the year before, Shtar's group had the advantage of adult support for their smaller shrine, resulting in more elaborate festival displays. They also had a system that prevented them from getting involved in fights. If Chikichi's group lost again this year, he'd be the laughingstock of Yokok. His usual bragging would be dismissed as empty boasting. Few would join his group for the Bentonbori swimming competition. Though his group was stronger, Shtar's gentle demeanor was deceptive. Chikichi was intimidated by Shtar's education and was frustrated that some of his own members, like Takichi and Sanga, secretly favored the other side. The festival was 2 days away, and if it looked like they were losing, he planned to go on a rampage, aiming to leave a scar on Shtar's face, even if it cost him an eye or a leg. With the help of Ushi the rickshaw puller, Yasuk from the toy shop, and others, they couldn't lose. Oh, by the way, he thought, what are they up to? If it's Fujimoto, he might have a good idea. Close to dusk on the 18th, swatting away bothersome mosquitoes, Chikichi shuffled from the Shigeki Tokemura's yard into Shinyo's room at Raijeiji Temple. "Shin-san, are you there?" he called out. "People say I'm violent," Chikichi began. "Maybe I am, but I can't stand this. Listen, Shin-san, last year, the fight started between my little brother and that shorty from Shtar's group, hitting each other with lanterns. Then their guys jumped in and smashed our little one's lanterns. They taunted us, shouting, 'Look at Yokok.' And then that tall guy from the dumpling shop, Tonma, called us tails, pigtails, and all sorts of names." Chikichi continued, "We were at Senzoku Shrine at the time, so we heard about it later. I wanted to retaliate immediately, but my dad scolded me, so I had to swallow my anger again. And the year before, the Omotech guys gathered at the calligraphy shop for some kind of play. When I went to see, they said, Yokok should do its own thing. It really bothered me that they only favored Shtar. That loan shark, Tanaka, with his inherited wealth, he should have been strangled at birth. This year, I'm going to go on a rampage at the festival and get even. So, Shin-san, as my friend, I know you don't like this sort of thing, but please help me save Yokok's honor. Swing that big lantern around for me. I'm so frustrated. If we lose again, I'll lose face in Yokok." He shook Shinyo's shoulders violently. You're smart, even if I'm ignorant. You know all that academic stuff. If those guys try to insult us with their fancy words, you can fire back at them with even fancier words. It'll be great. If you agree, it'll be like having 1,000 men on our side. Unusual words of kindness escaped from Chikichi's lips. Point 1 was the son of a sandal maker, wearing a sanjaku obi and strawberry sandals. The other, a young master in a light brown, gold-brocaded hari and a purple braided obi. Their thoughts were opposed, their words often clashing. But Chikichi had been born and raised near the temple, and the priest and his wife favored him. They attended the same school, and Shinyo felt bad when it was criticized for being private. He couldn't refuse Chikichi's plea, though he was bound by a sense of obligation. All right, I'll join your group, Shinyo said. But it's better to avoid fighting if possible. If they start something, we'll have no choice. As if to illustrate his point, he took a small kogatana knife, a souvenir from Kyoto, out of his desk drawer. This seems sharp, he remarked. Chikichi peered at it, saying, looks like it'll cut well. Shinyo thought, dangerous. Will he really use this? 3. The tightly bound shaguma hairstyle, though formidable in name, was the latest fashion, worn even by young ladies from good families. Midori of Daikokuya had fair skin, a straight nose, and a small, well-shaped mouth. Though not individually stunning, she had a pleasant appearance overall. Her voice was soft and clear, her gaze kind and engaging, and her lively movements were charming. She wore a large, persimmon-colored yukata with a butterfly and bird pattern, a black juban, and a tie-dyed obi tied high on her chest. She wore tall, lacquered clogs, rarely seen in the area. Returning from her morning bath, her nape gleaming white above her towel, young men from the brothel district would say, I wish I could see her again in 3 years. Born in Kishu, her speech had a slight accent, but it only added to her charm. Above all, people were drawn to her quick wit and lively spirit. The weight of the silver coin purse she carried, unusual for a child, was understandable. Her older sister was a geisha at the height of her popularity, and as a compliment to her, people would give Midori gifts, saying, buy the little miss a doll. It's just a small token. She would accept these gifts without a second thought, unaware of the burden they placed on the givers. She generously gave matching rubber balls to 20 of her classmates and even bought cheap toys for her friends at the calligraphy shop, just to see them happy. Such daily extravagance was impossible for someone her age and status. What would become of her? Her parents, though present, turned a blind eye, rarely scolding her. The brothel owner's fondness for her was also strange. She was neither an adopted daughter nor a relative. When her sister entered the brothel, the owner, who had come to assess her, took a liking to Midori and invited the whole family to live there. No one knew what happened after that. Now, Midori lived in the brothel's dormitory, her mother sewing clothes for the prostitutes and her father working as a clerk. Midori attended a vocational school, where she learned singing, shamisen, and taiko drums, absorbing the ways of the pleasure quarters. When she first arrived, she was teased for her country bumpkin appearance, wearing a double-layered, light purple, tie-dyed haneri, decorative collar. She cried for 3 days and nights, but now she mocked others for their unfashionable appearance, her sharp tongue going unchecked. When her friends begged her to do something exciting for the upcoming festival, she readily agreed, saying, I'll pay for whatever you want. Like a little queen, she made extravagant promises. Her generosity, surpassing even that of adults, won her the children's immediate favor. Let's put on a play, one suggested. We can rent a shop and perform where passers-by can see. That's dumb, another retorted. Let's build a portable shrine, like the real one displayed at the back of the Kamataya shop. We can carry it, even if it's heavy. It'll be awesome. A boy with a twisted headband added, that's boring for us girls. Just watching you guys make noise isn't fun for Midori-san. Let's do something she likes. The girls, eager to outshine the festival, hinted at recreating the Tokiwaza theater. Shtar, with his charming, wide eyes, suggested, how about a magic lantern show? I have some slides, and Midori-san can buy the rest. We can do it at the calligraphy shop. I'll be the projectionist, and Sanga from Yokok can do the narration. Midori-san, how about it? Oh, that sounds fun, Midori replied. Everyone will laugh at Sangere's narration. It'll be even funnier when his face shows up on the screen. The plan was settled. Shtar, sweating profusely, ran errands to buy the necessary items, a comical sight. The next day, even Yokok had heard about their plans. Point 4. The beating drums and the twang of the shamisen filled the air. Even places usually untouched by such festivities were caught up in the excitement. The Mishima Shrine and the neighboring Onoti Shrine competed, their rivalry amusing. Both Yokok and Omotek wore matching Maro cotton yukatas with their neighborhood names printed on them, though some grumbled that this year's design was inferior to last year's. They wore thick, indigo-dyed linen sashes, and the children 14 and younger carried various toys, Daruma dolls, horned owls, toy dogs, as if showing off their collections. 7, 9, and 11-year-olds roamed around with bells jingling on their backs, their bare feet pounding the pavement in comical bravado. Shtar stood out from the crowd, wearing a red-striped Hanten jacket, a dark blue sash against his fair neck, and a light blue obi. The quality of his crepe silk was evident. He wore a headband with a single flower from the festival float tucked into it. Though his leather-thonged Jita sandals made a slapping sound, he didn't join the boisterous revelers. The evening festivities passed without incident, and the day wore on towards sunset. 12 children gathered at the calligraphy shop, impatiently waiting for Midori, who was taking her time with her evening makeup. Shtar paced back and forth at the door. "Call Sanger," he urged. "You've never been to Daikokuya's dorm, have you? Just call for Midori-san from the front yard. She'll hear you. Hurry up." "I'll call her," Jirozaemon volunteered, leaving his lantern behind. "You cheapskate," someone teased. "Just go." Jirozaemon shot out the door like a flash, his comical dash drawing laughter from the girls. Short and stout, with a perpetually bowed head, he earned the nickname Hammerhead. He had a snub nose, buck teeth, and 2 dimples that gave him a perpetually amused expression. His oddly shaped eyebrows made him look like a comic mask, but he was a harmless and likable child. He wore a simple Awachijimi kimono, likely telling his friends that his matching outfit wasn't ready yet. With Sanger leading the way, 6 children followed. Sangere's father, a rickshaw puller, struggled to provide for his family of 6. Although he had good clients in 50 tea houses, his licensed rickshaw could only be used for business purposes, leaving him with little other income. At 13, Sanger was expected to contribute to the family income. He tried working at a lumberyard but lacked the perseverance to last more than 10 days at any job. From November to spring, he made feather shuttlecocks at home, and in the summer, he helped out at the ice house, skillfully attracting customers with his calls. Last year, he had participated in the Niwaka festival as a stagehand, earning a reputation in Mananch. Although some found him annoying, his comical nature made him hard to dislike. The Tanaka family was his lifeline, providing generous financial assistance to his family. Although the debt continued to grow, he couldn't resent his benefactors. He couldn't refuse Shtar's invitation to play, but he was torn. Born and raised in Yokok, he was loyal to his neighborhood, especially since his landlord was Chikichi's father. He secretly helped the Yokok gang while maintaining a facade of neutrality, playing a difficult double role. Shtar sat in the calligraphy shop, softly singing a love song to pass the time. The shopkeeper's wife teased him, saying it was scandalous, causing him to blush. Just then, his grandmother called him for dinner. "Shtar, why haven't you eaten yet?" she scolded. "Don't get carried away with playing. I've been calling you for a while now." He politely excused himself to his friends and the shopkeeper's wife, then obediently followed his grandmother home. His absence immediately cast a pall over the group. Although Sanger tried his best to entertain, he lacked Shtar's charm. "Look at how stuck up the Tanaka widow is," the women gossiped. "She's 64, never wears makeup, and has a huge Marumage hairstyle. She speaks in a sweet voice and doesn't care if people die. I bet she'll end up in a double suicide over money and love." Despite their dislike for her, they acknowledged her influence. "Even our children respect her," they admitted. "I heard she lends money to the big brothels in the pleasure district," they whispered, enviously calculating others' wealth. The long wait by the hibachi brazier was agonizing. It must be love. In the cool summer evening breeze, having washed away the day's heat in the bath, Midori admired herself in the mirror. Her mother brushed and styled her hair, marveling at her daughter's beauty. She wore a light blue, cool Isendide kimono and a narrow, white and gold obi. Time seemed to stand still as she adjusted her jita on the stepping stones. She had circled the fence 7 times, yawning repeatedly, swatting away the persistent mosquitoes that plagued the area. Finally, when Sanger arrived, she grabbed his sleeve and rushed out, her breath catching in her chest. "Don't run so fast," Sanger complained. "I can't keep up." She laughed, leaving him behind. When they arrived at the calligraphy shop, Shtar was in the middle of dinner. "This is so boring," Midori sighed. "I don't want to start the magic lantern show without him. Auntie, do you have any wisdom boards here? Anything will do. I'm so bored." The shopkeeper's wife handed her some scissors, and the girls started cutting out paper dolls. The boys, with Sanger at the center, began to sing Niwaka festival songs. "Look at the bustling Gokuch, with its lanterns and electric lights. It's always lively," they sang, their voices echoing the familiar chants from previous years. Their boisterous performance drew a crowd outside the shop. "Is Sanger here? Come out for a minute. It's urgent," shouted Bunji, the hair ornament maker. Sanger jumped up and dashed outside, only to be met with a blow to the cheek. "You two-faced bastard. You think you can get away with insulting Yokok? I'm Chikichi. You'll regret this." Chikichi grabbed Sanger by the collar as he tried to flee. "Beat him up," Chikichi's gang shouted. "Get Shtar. Coward. Don't run. Tonma won't let you get away with this." The crowd surged forward, about 15 strong, their headbands askew, brandishing large lanterns, a chaotic and violent mob. They kicked down the calligraphy shop's hanging lantern, threatening the hanging lamp inside. "Stop fighting in front of the shop," the shopkeeper's wife screamed, but her pleas were lost in the din. "Where's Shtar hiding? Tell us," they demanded, punching and kicking Sanger. Midori pushed her way through the crowd. "What did Sanger do?" she cried. "If you want to fight Shtar, fight him directly. He's not hiding. He's not even here. This is my playground. Don't you dare lay a finger on him. You hateful Chikichi. Why are you hitting Sanger? Stop it. Auntie, let me go." She struggled against the shopkeeper's wife, who tried to restrain her. "You little whore," Chikichi yelled. "You'll follow in your sister's footsteps, begging on the streets." He threw a muddy sandal at her, hitting her forehead. She reeled back, blood trickling down her face. The shopkeeper's wife rushed to her aid. "Look what you've done," she cried. "We're all going to the police." Chikichi and his gang, seeing someone running towards the police box, immediately scattered, disappearing into the back alleys. Midori, tears streaming down her face, sobbed uncontrollably. "Why didn't they kill me?" she wailed. "I'll haunt them even after I'm dead. Remember this, Chikichi." Her yukata was torn, her back and waist covered in dirt. The shopkeeper's wife tried to comfort her. It's okay," she soothed, stroking her back and brushing off the dirt. "They were too many. We're all too weak. Even the adults couldn't fight them. You're lucky you weren't hurt worse. It's dangerous now. They might be waiting to ambush you. It's a good thing a policeman came by. He can escort you home." She explained the situation to the officer, who offered to take Midori home. No, I can go home by myself," Midori insisted, shrinking back. "Don't worry," the policeman reassured her, gently patting her head. "I'll escort you to your door. Don't worry." Midori, still frightened, whispered, "If my father finds out I got into a fight, he'll be angry. My landlord is a very important person." "I won't tell him you were fighting," the policeman promised. "I'll just walk you to your door." Relieved, Midori allowed herself to be led away, the neighbors watching with concern. As they reached the corner of Yokok, Midori suddenly broke free from the policeman's grasp and ran as fast as she could, disappearing into the darkness. Vi. It was as if snow had fallen in midsummer. Midori refused to go to school, her sullenness evident. "If you don't eat your breakfast, I'll buy you some sushi later," her mother offered. "You don't have a fever, so you must be tired from yesterday." Midori usually accompanied her mother on her morning visit to Tasama, the local deity, but today she insisted on going alone. I made a wish for my sister's prosperity, she explained, so I have to go myself. Please give me some offering money. She left the house, her head bowed low, walking along the path between the rice paddies, praying at the Inari shrine. On her way back, still downcast, Shtar spotted her from a distance and rushed to her side. Midori-san, I'm so sorry about yesterday, he apologized. You don't have to apologize, she replied. But they hate me. They wanted to fight me. If my grandmother hadn't called me back, I would have stayed. They shouldn't have hit Sanga so badly. I went to see him this morning, and he was crying. He said Chikichi threw a muddy sandal at your face. That bully. But please forgive me. I didn't run away on purpose. I was about to come back when my grandmother called me to the bathhouse. I really didn't know what was happening. I swear. He apologized profusely, anxiously examining her forehead. Midori forced a smile. It's nothing, she said. It doesn't hurt. But please, SH-san, don't tell anyone that Chikichi threw a sandal at me. If my mother finds out, she'll scold me. Even my parents never hit me. Having mud thrown on my face is like being stepped on. She turned away, her face clouded with shame. Please forgive me, Shtar pleaded. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry. Please don't be mad at me. I'll be so sad if you're angry with me. As they walked, they unknowingly approached Midori's house. Come inside, Midori-san, Shtar invited. No one's home. My grandmother must be out collecting payments. I'm all alone, and it's so lonely. I'll show you the woodblock prints I told you about. I have all sorts. He took her hand and wouldn't let go. Midori nodded silently and entered through the side gate. The garden, though small, was charmingly arranged with potted plants and ferns hanging from the eaves. Shtar had bought them on the day of the horse. Although the Tanaka family was known as the wealthiest in the neighborhood, their house was modest, occupied only by Shtar and his grandmother. The numerous locks on their doors and windows, however, hinted at their wealth, deterring even the most determined thieves. Shtar led Midori to the coolest part of the house and offered her a fan. His attentiveness was endearing, though a bit precocious for a 13-year-old. He proudly showed her his collection of woodblock prints, delighting in her praise. I'll show you my mother's old battledore, he offered. She received it when she was working at a mansion. It's so big. Midori exclaimed. People's faces looked different back then. I wish my mother was still alive, Shtar sighed. She died when I was 3. My father's still alive, but he went back to our family home in the countryside. Now it's just me and my grandmother. You're so lucky. He suddenly started talking about his parents. Don't cry, Midori said. It's not right for boys to cry. Am I weak? He asked, wiping his eyes. I often think about things. It's okay now, but on winter nights, when I'm collecting payments around Tamachi, I often cry by the riverbank. I don't cry because it's cold. I just think about things. I've been helping with the collections since last year. My grandmother's getting old, and it's dangerous for her to be out at night. Her eyesight is failing, so it's hard for her to stamp the receipts. I feel bad for her. She used to have several men working for her, but she said they took advantage of her because she's old. I'm looking forward to taking over the pawn shop when I'm older. Maybe we can even put up the Tanaka family sign again, like in the old days. People say my grandmother is stingy, but she's just being frugal for me. When I go collecting payments, I see so many pitiful people in places like Toroshinmakai. They probably say bad things about my grandmother behind her back. When I think about that, I can't help but cry. I guess I'm weak. You looked so dashing at the festival, Midori said, changing the subject. I wish I could dress like that. Everyone said you looked the best. You looked better than anyone. Shtar beamed. It was nothing, he said. You're the beautiful one. Everyone says you're prettier than the older geisha in the pleasure district. If you were my sister, I'd be so proud. I'd take you everywhere with me, and we'd show off. It's tough not having any siblings. Hey, Midori-san, he continued, let's take a picture together. I'll wear my festival outfit, and you can wear your striped tsukaya, thin silk, kimono. We can go to Kato's studio near Suijiri. That Fujimoto guy will be so jealous. He'll be so mad. He'll turn blue with rage. Or maybe he'll laugh. I don't care if he laughs. We can get a big print made and put it up as a sign. Do you want to? You look like you don't want to. He looked hurt. Midori burst out laughing. If it's a bad picture, you'll hate me, she teased. Her laughter lightened the mood. The morning coolness had given way to the afternoon heat. See you later, SH-san, Midori said, getting up to leave. Come visit me at the dorm tonight. We can catch fish with lanterns. The bridge over the pond is fixed now, so it's safe. Shita watched her go, his heart filled with admiration. 7. Shinyo of Raijeiji Temple and Midori of Daikokuya both attended Ikuasha school. At the end of April, when the cherry blossoms had fallen and the wisteria was in bloom, the school held its annual spring sports day at the fields of Mizunoya. They enjoyed tug-of-war, ball throwing, and jump rope, forgetting the passing of the long day. On that occasion, Shinyo, unusually clumsy for his normally composed self, tripped over a pine root near the pond and fell into the red clay path, staining the sleeve of his hari. Midori, seeing his predicament, offered him her red silk handkerchief. Please, wipe your hands, she said kindly. Their classmates, noticing this exchange, started teasing. Fujimoto's talking to a girl, even though he's going to be a monk. He even thanked her. I bet Midori-san is going to be Fujimoto's wife. The wife of a priest is called Daikoku-sama. Shinyo, who hated being the subject of gossip, turned away with a grimace. He became increasingly uncomfortable whenever he heard Midori's name, fearing further teasing. He tried to ignore it, feigning indifference, but he couldn't help but feel uneasy. He would sweat profusely whenever someone asked him about it, usually replying with a curt "I don't know." Midori, oblivious to his discomfort, continued to address him as Fujimoto-san and often waited for him after school. One day, she spotted a beautiful flower on a high branch. Look, Fujimoto-san, such a beautiful flower. The branch is too high for me. You're tall, so you can reach it. Please, pick it for me, she begged. Shinyo, unable to ignore her request despite his unease, reluctantly pulled down a nearby branch and handed her the flower, quickly walking away. His lack of warmth made her think he was being deliberately unkind. She became increasingly frustrated with his aloofness. He avoided her, snapped at her when she spoke, and seemed to exude a gloomy aura. He's so awkward, she thought. He's always angry and mean. If he doesn't want to be my friend, I won't talk to him either. Slightly annoyed, she decided to ignore him, passing him without a word, a river seeming to flow between them as they walked their separate paths. 8. The rickshaws carried the revelers home as evening turned to night, their departure a melancholic contrast to the evening's excitement. Some hid their faces with hats, reluctant to be seen. Others waved goodbye, their laughter bittersweet. Be careful in Sakamoto. The Senju-bound vegetable cart is dangerous. The road to Mishima Shrine is a madhouse. Keep your wits about you, and don't let your guard down. If you act important, you'll be mistaken for some big shot, even though you're worthless, a voice called out from the street corner. Like the favored concubine in the Song of Everlasting Regret, daughters were treasured everywhere. The brothels of this district often produced remarkable women. A certain geisha from Tsukiji, now relocated, entertained dignitaries. Another, a beautiful dancer named Yuki, once innocently asked, "Is there a tree that grows rice?" She, too, had started out in this district, making hanagaruta, flower cards, to earn a living. Her reputation grew quickly, and when she left, another took her place. The new beauty, Kogiku, the dyer's daughter, was now the darling of the newly opened Tsutaya brothel in Senzoku Ch. Even the alluring courtesan of the park, known as Koyoshi, had roots in this district. Tales of upward mobility were common, particularly for women. Men, however, were often seen as useless, like stray dogs scavenging in the trash. Groups of 5, 7, or 10 young men, self-proclaimed young bloods of the neighborhood, roamed the streets, their sashes adorned with shakuhachi flutes, though they couldn't play them. They followed their boss, playing pranks and begging for cigarettes and tissues from the caged houses, their antics a source of both amusement and annoyance. By day, they worked at their family businesses, but as soon as evening fell, they'd change into their finest clothes, their minds filled with thoughts of the new prostitutes at the local establishments. She looks like the daughter of the silk merchant in Kanasuji, but with a bigger nose, they'd remark, their conversations revolving around such trivial matters. They considered it a badge of honor to engage in petty squabbles, earning themselves the nickname local toughs and causing trouble near the Great Gate. The women, however, held the true power. The Gokuchi district buzzed with activity day and night, the lanterns of the tea houses guiding the endless stream of visitors, their Jita sandals clattering on the pavement. The geisha, in their elaborate hairstyles and long, trailing uchi-cake robes, greeted them with alluring smiles. Though their beauty was debatable, they were revered as oiran, high-ranking courtesans. Their true nature was only revealed when they were off-duty. Growing up in such an environment, it was no wonder that Midori saw men as neither frightening nor intimidating, and prostitution as a tolerable profession. The memory of tearfully seeing her sister off felt like a distant dream. She envied her sister's current prosperity and the filial piety she could show to their parents, unaware of the hardships and sorrows of a courtesan's life. The charms of the pleasure district, the secret signals, the whispered words behind closed lattices, were all too familiar to her. She had learned the language of the brothels and used it casually, unashamed. At 14, she still played with dolls, her heart as innocent as any noble lady's. But the lessons of ethics and home economics she learned at school were overshadowed by the constant chatter about clients, the elaborate outfits, and the comings and goings of the tea houses. She saw extravagance as beautiful and simplicity as pitiful, her young mind unable to grasp the nuances of the adult world. Her competitive spirit, unchecked, soared like a cloud, shaping her perceptions. As the morning customers departed and the streets of Omotek were swept clean, a new wave of entertainers arrived from Mananch, Yamabushi CH, and Shintani CH. Candy sellers, acrobats, puppeteers, kagura dancers, sumiyoshi dancers, and lion dancers, each in their unique costumes, filled the streets. Some wore elegant silk, others simple cotton. Some traveled in large groups, others alone, like the old man with his worn-out shamisen. A little girl with a red sash followed a group of musicians. "She's from Kishu," someone remarked. These entertainers catered to the brothel's residents, providing amusement for the clients and distraction for the courtesans. "It's a good way to make a living," they said, "especially for those who can't enter the brothels." They flocked to the district, unconcerned with the meager earnings. Even beggars, their clothes adorned with seaweed, were kept away from the gates. A beautiful female performer, her face barely concealed by her casa hat, sang in a clear voice, showcasing her talent. "Her voice is as lovely as the famous courtesans, but you can't buy it so easily," the shopkeeper's wife remarked, her tongue sharp. The crowd gathered around, more interested in Midori than the performer. "I'd like to hire those entertainers and put on a show," Midori whispered to Star. "It would be so much fun." Star, shocked, replied, "I wouldn't want to do that." 9. "Thus have I heard," chanted a voice, reciting the Amitabha Sutra. The sound blended with the rustling pine trees, a purifying sound, emanating from the temple kitchen. Yet, the smell of grilling fish wafted from within, and a baby's diaper hung drying in the graveyard. While such things were tolerated depending on the sect, to those who saw monks as sacred, the smell was jarring. The head priest of Raijeiji Temple had a large belly, a testament to his comfortable life. His complexion was remarkably clear, a healthy reddish-brown without a blemish, a hue that defied description, neither cherry blossom pink nor peach blossom red. When he threw his head back and laughed, his thick, white-flecked eyebrows rising, it seemed as though the temple's Buddha statue might topple from its pedestal in surprise. His new wife, still in her early 40s, was fair-skinned with thin hair, her marumage hairstyle small and unobtrusive. She was kind to visitors, and even the gossipy wife of the florist had nothing bad to say about her, likely due to the occasional gifts of clothes and leftover food she received from the temple. She had originally been a parishioner, widowed and destitute, who came to the temple seeking work. Starting with laundry and cleaning, she learned to cook and even helped the male servants clean the graveyard. The head priest, taking pity on her, eventually married her despite their 20-year age difference. Though an unconventional arrangement, the parishioners didn't object. When she became pregnant with Ohana, the retired oil merchant from Sakamoto, a meddlesome but well-meaning parishioner, served as matchmaker, making their relationship official. Shinyo was born into this family, along with his younger sister, Ohana. While Shinyo was quiet and introverted, Ohana was lively and charming. Though not conventionally beautiful, she was popular and considered a valuable asset to the temple. However, it was considered inappropriate for a priest's daughter to be too visible. So, they opened a tea house on Tamachi Street, installing Ohana behind the counter to attract customers with her charm. The tea house was a success, filled with customers until midnight every night. The head priest was a busy man, collecting debts, checking on the tea house, and attending to temple duties. On designated days, he delivered sermons. Exhausted, he would sit on the veranda in the evening, his kimono open, fanning himself while enjoying a large cup of awamori sake. His favorite snack was grilled eel, which he ordered from the Musashiya restaurant in Omotech. Shinyo was tasked with delivering the orders, a chore he loathed. He walked with his head down, avoiding eye contact, and whenever he heard children playing in front of the calligraphy shop, he imagined they were gossiping about him. He would hurry past the eel restaurant, checking for onlookers before quickly doubling back to place the order. He despised the smell of the fish and vowed never to eat it himself. His father was a carefree man, a bit greedy perhaps, but not concerned with gossip. He even tried his hand at making kumade rakes, selling them at a stall in front of the temple during the November festival. His new wife, wearing a towel on her head, called out to customers, enticing them to buy Lucky Charms. Although she was initially embarrassed, the prospect of easy profits overshadowed her shame. During the day, she enlisted the help of the florist's wife, and in the evening, she personally managed the stall, shouting, "Come and get your Lucky Charm." Lost in the crowd, customers forgot their usual frugality, eager to secure good fortune. 3 hairpins for 75 sen, she'd call out. 5 for 3 sen. The profits were immense. Shinyo found this embarrassing. "People are talking," he warned. "The children are saying that Raijeiji Temple is selling hairpins and that you were acting like a crazy woman." The head priest just laughed. Be quiet," he dismissed him. "You don't understand these things." He counted his earnings every evening, his cheerful demeanor mortifying to his son. "Why did you shave your head?" Shinyo wondered resentfully. Growing up in a secluded temple environment, Shinyo had little interaction with the outside world. His quiet nature, coupled with his frustration at being ignored, led him to disapprove of everything: his father's actions, his mother's behavior, and even his sister's upbringing. He saw them all as wrong, but he couldn't voice his opinions. His loneliness was profound. His classmates saw him as awkward and resentful, but his inner turmoil was hidden beneath a mask of indifference. He lacked the courage to confront those who gossiped about him, preferring to shut himself in his room. Though he excelled at school and came from a respectable family, no one realized how timid he truly was. They dismissed him as a strange and unpleasant boy. On the night of the festival, Shinyo was sent on an errand to his sister's tea house in Tamachi and didn't return home until late, unaware of the commotion at the calligraphy shop. The next day, he learned about the incident from Ushi, Bunji, and others. He was shocked by Chikichi's violence but couldn't reprimand him, as his own name had been used without his permission. He felt responsible for the trouble caused and regretted his involvement. Chikichi, seemingly ashamed of his actions, avoided Shinyo for several days. Finally, he reappeared, apologizing profusely. "Shin-san, I don't know if you're angry, but it was just the heat of the moment. Please forgive me. No one knew Shita was a brothel owner's son. I didn't really want to beat up Sanger for talking to a prostitute, but once I started swinging my lantern, I couldn't stop. It was all my fault. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you and went to the festival. Please don't be mad at me. I felt so powerful with you backing me up, like I was on a big ship. I'd be lost without your support. Please stay as the leader of our group. I promise I won't cause so much trouble again." Shinyo, despite his disapproval, couldn't refuse. "All right, I'll stay," he conceded. "But bullying weaker people is shameful. Don't target Sanger or Midori. If Shita starts something, then we'll have no choice. But we won't initiate anything." He warned Chikichi against further violence. Sanger, the innocent victim, suffered from the beating for several days, struggling to move. Even his father, the rickshaw puller, noticed his son's weakened state. Sanger, what happened? You look terrible, a fellow rickshaw puller remarked. Sanger's father, always respectful to his clients, couldn't complain to the brothel owners. If I tell them Chikichi beat up my son, they'll just say it's my son's fault for getting into a fight, he thought. They'll tell me to apologize to Chikichi. Sanger, swallowing his resentment, endured the pain. After a week or 10 days, his wounds healed, and his anger subsided. He earned 2 sen a day babysitting the landlord's baby, his 16-year-old swagger replaced by a childish innocence as he carried the infant on his back, singing lullabies. He continued to play with Midori and Shita, enduring their teasing about his change of heart. From the cherry blossom season to the chrysanthemum displays, the rickshaws flew through the streets, 75 in all. Summer passed, the dragonflies danced over the rice paddies, and the quails began to call. The autumn wind brought a chill to the air. Mosquito-repellent incense gave way to hand warmers. The sound of the rice-pounding mortar at the Tomua shop by the stone bridge was a lonely sound. The clock at Kadubi chimed mournfully. Even the distant glow of the crematorium at Nipperi seemed to carry a sorrowful message. From the narrow path below the riverbank, the sound of a shamisen drifted up, a geisha from Nakanock singing a plaintive love song. It's around this time that the serious customers start coming, a retired prostitute remarked. They're the ones who truly appreciate the geisha's art. Even in the bustling Daionjimi district, life continued its course. A blind masseuse, barely 20 years old, heartbroken and despairing over her disability, drowned herself in the pond at Mizunoya. This tragic event became the latest gossip. What happened to Yoshigoro the greengrocer and Taikichi the carpenter? I haven't seen them around, someone asked. They were arrested for that incident, another replied, pointing to the center of his face, a cryptic reference understood by all. Children played innocently in the streets, singing, "Open, open, what flower has opened?" Their carefree games seemed subdued, overshadowed by the autumnal atmosphere. Only the sound of rickshaws heading towards the pleasure district remained unchanged, their wheels clattering boldly through the quiet streets. On a cold, rainy autumn night, the calligraphy shop, devoid of customers, closed its doors early. Inside, Midori, Shita, and a few younger children played shell games, their innocent amusement a stark contrast to the gloomy weather. Suddenly, Midori cocked her head. Listen. Someone's coming. I hear footsteps on the wooden walkway. Maybe a customer? Really? Shita stopped playing, excited at the prospect of a visitor. Maybe it's one of the servants from the brothels. The footsteps approached the shop but then stopped abruptly, fading into silence. 11. Shita peeked outside. Oh, it's him, he said, turning back to Midori. Don't bother calling him, Midori-san. He won't come in. You know how he is. Shin-san? Midori asked, her face darkening. That annoying monk. He probably came to buy something but saw us and left. He's so mean. So twisted. So awkward. So gloomy. He's got buck teeth, too. I hate him. If he had come in, I would have given him a piece of my mind. He's the one who told Chikichi to ruin our fun at the festival and beat up poor Sanger. He was the mastermind behind it all. He's the one who put Chikichi up to calling me a whore. I don't care if I'm a whore. He doesn't have to worry about me. I have my parents, the brothel owner, and my sister. I don't need his stinky fish-smelling help. If he has something to say, he should say it to my face instead of skulking around in the shadows. I'm not afraid of him. Lend me your jita, Shita. I'll go and give him a piece of my mind. Ignoring the rain, she grabbed Shita's jita and rushed outside. The rain dripped onto her forehead from the eaves. Ugh, how disgusting, she muttered, shivering. She spotted Shinyo a few houses down, walking slowly under a large umbrella, his head slightly bowed. She watched him for a long moment. Midori-san? What are you doing? Shita asked, puzzled, nudging her back. Nothing, she replied curtly, returning inside. She gathered the shells for the game. He really is an annoying little monk, she muttered. He acts all high and mighty, ordering people around, but he can't even fight. He's just a coward hiding behind a gentle facade. He's so two-faced. My mother always says that people who slouch have good hearts, but he's always so stiff and proper. That means he must have a bad heart, right? Don't you think so, SH-san? She glared at Star, her voice full of venom. Raijeiji Temple is still somewhat decent, Star replied. But Chikichi is just a wild animal. He's so full of himself. Don't talk like an adult, Midori snapped. It's not cute. You're just showing off. She flicked his cheek and giggled. Soon, we'll all be adults, Star declared. I'll be like the owner of Kamataya, wearing a frock coat and carrying a gold pocket watch. I'll get a ring, too, and smoke cigarettes. What kind of shoes should I wear? I like Jita better than Zri. Maybe I'll wear triple-soled Jita with silk straps. Do you think they'll suit me? Midori burst out laughing. A short man in a frock coat and tall Jita? You'll look ridiculous. Like a walking medicine bottle. Don't be silly. Star protested. I'll be tall by then. I won't be this short forever. Who knows when that will be? Midori teased. Look, there's a rat on the ceiling. She pointed upwards, and everyone, including the shopkeeper's wife, roared with laughter. Star suddenly became serious, his eyes darting around. You're just joking, right, Midori-san? He asked. Everyone becomes an adult eventually. What's so funny about what I said? I'll get a beautiful wife and take her everywhere with me. I like pretty girls, so if someone like Ofuku from the rice cracker shop, with her pockmarked face, or Odeko from the firewood shop, with her huge forehead, comes after me, I'll kick them out right away. I hate pockmarks and scars. The shopkeeper's wife chuckled. It's good that you come to my shop so often, SH-san, she said. Don't you see my pockmarks? But you're old, auntie, Star replied. I'm talking about my wife. I don't care about old people. That's not very nice, the shopkeeper's wife admonished, playing along. So, who do you like in the neighborhood? Oroku from the flower shop? Ki from the fruit shop? Or maybe someone even better, like the girl sitting next to you right now? Star blushed. What are you talking about? He mumbled, avoiding eye contact. He moved away from Midori, pretending to be interested in the wall. So you like Midori-san? The shopkeeper's wife pressed. Yes, that's right, the others chimed in. How would I know? Star mumbled, turning his back to them and tapping the wall with his finger. He started humming a tune. Midori, unfazed, collected the shells and suggested another round of the game. Point 12. Whenever Shinyo went to Tamachi, although he could have taken another route, he usually took the shortcut along the riverbank, passing by a modest house with a latticed gate. Inside, a stone lantern, a low fence adorned with hagai, bush clover, and rolled-up bamboo blinds created a tranquil atmosphere. Behind the frosted glass windows, one could imagine the wife of a magistrate counting her prayer beads or a young lady dressed in purple preparing to go out. This was the Daikokuya dormitory. The sky was overcast with intermittent rain showers. Shinyo's mother had asked him to deliver a newly made undergarment to his sister in Tamachi. Your sister must be waiting for it, she said. Please take it to her on your way to school. Shinyo, ever obedient, took the package and set out, wearing simple wooden clogs and a rat-grey haride. As he turned the corner at Oshiguro Ditch, a sudden gust of wind nearly ripped his umbrella from his hands. He stumbled, and the strap of his jita broke. Frustrated, he propped his umbrella against the gate of Daikokuya and began to repair his jita. Unaccustomed to such tasks, he fumbled with the straps, his clumsiness adding to his frustration. Another gust of wind sent his umbrella tumbling. Damn it, he muttered, reaching for it. As he did so, the package slipped from his grasp, landing in the mud, staining the furoshiki wrapping cloth and his kimono sleeve. Midori watched from behind the frosted glass windows. Look at that clumsy oaf, she thought. He'll never fix it like that. Paper string? That won't last. And look, his kimono is dragging in the mud. She called out to her mother, Mother, can I give him a piece of cloth? He's broken his jita strap. She grabbed a piece of leftover Chiraman silk from the sewing box and hurried outside, her wooden clogs clattering on the stepping stones as she approached Shinyo, her face flushed crimson, her heart pounding. She averted her gaze, conscious of being watched. Normally, she would have teased him mercilessly. Look at you, you clumsy oaf. You can't even fix a jita strap. You ruined our fun at the festival, sent Higuchi to beat up Sanger, and then called me a whore. What do you have to say for yourself? Do you think you're so smart, hiding behind your books and your temple robes? I don't need your pity, I have my own family, and the brothel owner takes good care of me. You think you're better than me? Come on, say it to my face. But today, she remained silent, her usual boldness replaced by an unusual shyness. Just then, her mother called out, Midori, what are you doing out in the rain? Come inside. You'll catch a cold. Coming. Midori replied, embarrassed that Shinyo had heard her mother's voice. She felt a strange tightness in her chest. Unable to meet Shinyo's gaze, she wordlessly tossed him the piece of silk and turned to leave, her wooden clogs clicking on the stepping stones. Shinyo watched her go, a mixture of relief and disappointment washing over him. He noticed a fallen maple leaf, wet with rain, lying near his feet. Its crimson color reminded him of the silk Midori had thrown him. He wanted to pick it up, but he hesitated, his heart filled with a strange longing. 13. Shinyo felt uncomfortable standing in front of Daikokuya, eager to leave. He struggled with the broken jita strap, his clumsiness amplified by the rain and wind. The sound of approaching footsteps startled him. He knew it was her. He pretended to be absorbed in his task, his heart pounding in his chest. Midori approached him, a look of exasperation on her face. What are you doing? She asked. That's not how you tie a jita strap. Use straw, not paper. And look at your kimono. It's covered in mud. She pointed at his umbrella. Put it away. It's rolling around. She held out the piece of silk. Here, use this. She watched him, her face a mixture of amusement and pity. Shinyo, avoiding her gaze, continued to fumble with the strap. Midori's mother called out again, Midori, what are you doing playing out there in the rain? Come inside before you catch a cold. Coming. Midori replied, her voice tight. She blushed, suddenly aware of her own appearance. She wanted to tell him so many things, but the words wouldn't come. Her mother called again, and she knew she had to leave. With a sigh of frustration, she tossed the silk at his feet and turned to go. What's wrong with your jita strap? Higuchi's voice suddenly boomed from behind. You look ridiculous. Shinyo turned around, startled. Higuchi, returning from the pleasure district, was dressed in a layered yukata and hari, a persimmon-colored sash tied low around his waist, and a new hanten jacket. His jita sandals were freshly lacquered, and he carried a matching umbrella. He looked smug and self-satisfied. I broke my jita strap, Shinyo explained lamely. I don't know what to do. Here, take my jita, Higuchi offered, surprisingly kind. Your straps are no good. Mine are strong. But you'll be barefoot, Shinyo protested. It's okay, I'm used to it, Higuchi said, taking off his jita. Your feet are too soft. You can't walk on the stones barefoot. Here, put these on. He helped Shinyo put on his jita. I'll take yours and throw them away later. There, now you're all set. He picked up Shinyo's broken jita and waved goodbye. See you later at school, Shin-san, he called out. Shinyo continued on his way to Tamachi, the image of Midori's retreating figure and the crimson maple leaf imprinted in his mind. 14. This year, there were 3 Torino-Ichi festivals, with the middle day falling on a weekday. The crowds at Utari Shrine were immense, the narrow streets of Nakanch overflowing with young people from the inspection station. Their laughter and shouts were deafening. The usual atmosphere of the pleasure district was transformed. From the various bridges, groups of revelers pushed their way through the crowds, shouting and cursing. The sounds of music and revelry filled the air, rising from the small shops along the riverbank to the upper floors of the grand brothels. Shtar had taken the day off to enjoy the festivities. He visited Sanger, who was helping his father at their food stall. How's business? He asked. Sh-san, you came at the right time, Sanger exclaimed. We're running out of shiruko, sweet bean soup. What should we do? We can make more, but we can't turn away customers. You idiot. Shtar scoffed. Look at all the leftover bits around the edges of the pot. Just add hot water and more sugar, and you'll have enough for 10 or 20 more servings. Everyone does that. Don't tell me your stall is the only one. He grabbed the sugar jar and started adding more sugar to the pot. Sanger's mother, impressed, praised him. You're a true businessman, sh-san. So clever. This isn't clever, Shita said. I saw them doing this at the Shiofuki stall in Yokok. It's not my idea. He changed the subject. Do you know where Midori-san is? I've been looking for her all morning. She hasn't been to the calligraphy shop either. Do you think she's in the pleasure district? Midori-san? Sanger replied. She just walked past our stall a while ago, heading towards the Hain Bridge in a gay sh-san, you won't believe it. She had her hair done in a Shimoda hairstyle. She looked so beautiful. He mimed the hairstyle, wiping his nose. She looked even prettier than Omaki-san, he added. Shita looked down, a wistful expression on his face. It's sad that she'll become a courtesan, he said softly. What's sad about that? Sanger retorted. If she becomes a courtesan, I'll become a kimono merchant and make lots of money, then I can go and visit her. Don't be ridiculous, Shita said. If you do that, she'll definitely reject you. Why? Sanger asked, puzzled. There's a reason, Shita replied, blushing slightly. He smiled and excused himself. I have to go now. I'll come back later. He joined the bustling crowd, his small figure quickly disappearing among the revelers. He reached the corner of the pleasure district and saw Midori approaching, accompanied by Otsuma, the brothel's manager. Midori, her hair styled in a beautiful Shimoda mage, looked even more stunning than Sanger had described. The elaborate hairstyle, adorned with tortoiseshell combs and ornate kanzashi, made her look like a precious doll. Shita stopped in his tracks, speechless. Midori rushed towards him. Shita-san, she exclaimed. Otsuma-san, I'll go back with Shita-san now. You can go ahead. She bowed politely to the manager, but Midori-chan, Otsuma protested, I thought I was escorting you back. I'll do some shopping in Kaimachi, Midori replied, quickly disappearing down a narrow alley. Shita, finally finding his voice, took her hand. Your hair looks beautiful, he said admiringly. When did you get it done? This morning. Yesterday? Why didn't you show me sooner? Midori pulled her hand away, her face flushed with shame. My sister did it for me this morning, she mumbled, avoiding his gaze. I didn't want to. 15. Midori felt a strange mixture of shame and sadness. People's compliments felt like mockery. She was acutely aware of the glances she received, interpreting them as disapproval. Shita-san, I want to go home, she said quietly. Why? Shita asked, surprised. Don't you want to play today? Did someone scold you? Did you fight with Omaki-san? Midori blushed, unable to answer. As they passed the dumpling shop, Tonma called out, good to see you two together. Midori's face crumpled. I don't want to walk with you, Shita-san, she said, quickening her pace. Why are you going home? Shita called after her. You're being strange. He ran after her and grabbed her sleeve. Midori blushed even deeper. It's nothing, she whispered, her voice barely audible. She hurried through the gate of the dormitory. Shita, accustomed to visiting her, followed her inside. Midori's mother greeted him warmly. Shita-san, so good of you to come. Midori's been in a bad mood all morning. We're all worried about her. Please play with her. Is she sick? Shita asked politely. No, her mother replied with a knowing smile. She'll be fine soon. She's just being difficult. She probably had a fight with her friends. She's such a handful. She glanced at Midori, who had retreated to a small room, clutching a cushion. She had taken off her obi and jacket and was lying face down on the floor, silent and still. Shita cautiously approached her. Midori-san, what's wrong? He asked softly. Are you sick? Are you feeling unwell? What happened? Midori didn't reply, her shoulders shaking slightly. Tears seeped into her unbound hair. Shita, unable to comprehend her distress, felt helpless. I haven't done anything to upset you, he said. Why are you so upset? He peered at her, his own eyes filling with tears. Midori finally looked up, wiping her eyes. I'm not angry, Shita-san, she said quietly. Then what's wrong? he asked gently. The reasons for her distress were too complicated, too shameful to explain. She longed to be alone in the darkness, unseen and unheard, to grapple with her emotions. She hated the scrutiny, the constant expectations. She wished she could return to a time of innocence, playing with dolls and paper dolls, oblivious to the complexities of the adult world. Go away, Shita-san, she pleaded. Please, just go. I can't bear to have you here. It makes my head hurt. It makes me dizzy. I don't want anyone near me right now. Please, just go. Her words were unusually harsh. Shita, hurt and confused, stood up. You're being very strange, he said. I don't understand. Tears welled up in his eyes. Fine, I'll go, he said, his voice trembling. Excuse me for bothering you. He didn't even say goodbye to Midori's mother and stormed out of the house. 16. Shita ran through the crowded streets, his heart heavy. He burst into the calligraphy shop, where Sanger was counting his earnings, his pockets bulging with coins. He was surrounded by his younger siblings, eagerly awaiting their share of the spoils. "Sh-san," Sanger exclaimed. "I was just looking for you. I made a lot of money today. I'll treat you to something." "Don't be stupid," Shita snapped. "I'm not in the mood for your treats." "Shut up." He sat down heavily, his face clouded with worry. "What's wrong? A fight?" Sanger asked, stuffing his uneaten rice cake into his pocket. "Is it Raijeiji Temple? Chikichi? Where did it start? The Pleasure District? In front of the shrine? This is different from the festival fight. We won't lose this time, not if we're prepared. I know the best spots for an ambush. Just tell me who it is, Sh-san. Don't worry, I've got your back." "It's not a fight," Shita mumbled, reluctant to talk. "But you looked like you were ready to explode when you came in," Sanger insisted. "So if it's not a fight now, then it means there won't be one later, right? I heard Chikichi is going to lose an arm." "What? Why?" Shita asked, surprised. "Don't you know?" Sanger replied. "I overheard my father talking to the wife of the priest at Raijeiji Temple. He said Shinsan is going to a Buddhist school soon. Once he puts on the robes, he won't be able to fight. Imagine him trying to swing his long sleeves around. So next year, both Yokok and Omotek will be under your control." "Shut up," Shita said. "Those two-faced cowards would switch sides in a heartbeat if someone offered them 2 sen. I wouldn't want them in my gang even if there were 100 of them. I wanted to fight Raijeiji Temple myself, but if Fujimoto is leaving, there's no point. I heard he's graduating next year. Why is he leaving so soon? He's such a coward." He clicked his tongue in disgust, but his words lacked conviction. Midori's strange behavior weighed heavily on his mind. He couldn't even bring himself to sing his usual songs. The bustling street seemed strangely quiet and lonely. He spent the rest of the evening at the calligraphy shop, brooding. The Torinoichi festival continued outside, its usual energy dampened by his melancholy. After that day, Midori became a changed person. She visited her sister less frequently and stopped playing in the streets. She made excuses when her friends invited her out, her former vivacity replaced by a quiet shyness. People wondered if she was ill, but her mother simply smiled and said, "Her true nature is finally emerging. This is just a temporary lull." Some praised her newfound gentleness, while others lamented the loss of her playful spirit. Omotek felt strangely empty without her laughter, and Shita rarely heard her sweet voice. Only the faint glow of his paper lantern, as he made his nightly rounds collecting payments, illuminated the quiet streets. Sanger often accompanied him, his comical voice a familiar sound in the stillness of the night. Midori never heard about Shinyo leaving for monastic training. She buried her resentment deep within her heart, a strange sense of shame clinging to her like a shadow. One frosty morning, she found a bouquet of artificial narcissus flowers placed outside her gate. She didn't know who had left them, but they filled her with a strange sense of longing. She placed them in a vase, admiring their simple beauty. The next day, she overheard someone mention that Shinyo had left for a Buddhist academy. January, February, March, August, November, December 1895, January 1896.